We are Redmud Green Energy, an innovative renewable energy project based in the Riverland, South Australia. In Australia, there are two things we have way too much of: sun and land. So we at Redmud Green Energy started finding ways that we could use both. Then we invested lots of money making this video to tell you about how awesome we are. So what is Redmud Green Energy? Well, to understand that, you should first understand this. South Australia, often referred to as Australia's answer to Mexico, has one of the highest luminance ratings in the world, meaning we get a whole ton of sunlight over the year. In fact, out of 365 days, South Australia gets an average of 274 days of full sunlight. Do you know what else we have? An extremely volatile electricity market. You see, South Australia is connected to what we call the national electricity market, which is a bit misleading because the Northern Territory and Western Australia aren't actually in on this, so it's really not that national. But it's essentially a huge electrical network covering the states and territories of eastern and southeastern Australia, all connected via what we call interconnectors. Using this network, the connected states are able to trade electricity between them at a wholesale rate, which is determined by supply and demand. Each state trades their generated supply to other states so it can cover the demand of those states. But the thing that makes South Australia unique as a member of this national network is that we have huge demand and virtually no supply. You see, as of this year, South Australia no longer has any coal generation. We don't have any nuclear plants. We do have a few natural gas power stations and a couple of wind turbines here and there, which are both very costly and generate nowhere near enough to meet demand. But what this means is that we are almost constantly purchasing electricity from other states on the network. And it also means that electricity prices in South Australia are extremely volatile and usually very, very high. In fact, a recent report suggests that South Australia may soon have the highest electricity prices in the world. In the world. But there is a silver lining, because with such a volatile market, there are ways to capitalise on it, if you know how it works. It just so happens that we do. So what is Redmud Green Energy, you ask? Well, in a nutshell, solar farms, but with a difference. You see, in Australia, a solar farm is classified as a power station when it exceeds 100 kilowatts. Redmud Green Energy are building solar farms which are twice that size, and unlike regular residential solar installations who receive a fixed feed-in tariff from their retailer for any energy they export to the grid, our solar farms trade their generated electricity directly to the national electricity market, where the price is determined by, you guessed it, supply and demand. So where a regular residential solar system may get a fixed 6 cents per kilowatt hour return on their exported electricity, a Redmud Green Energy solar farm can swing anywhere between a lower limit of -$1 to an upper limit of $14 per kilowatt hour generated. So to put that into perspective, in the middle of a bright sunny day, our first ground-mounted solar farm in Redmud, South Australia, outputs approximately 1.3 megawatt hours of energy, which on a day where the market was at its upper limit would equate to over $18,000 revenue for one day. That's not a bad day's work. But don't get too excited, because that's just the potential. And that relies on something actually going wrong on the network, like an interconnector going down, or constraints on the network driving the prices up. That's just to name a few. And it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. But let's get back to the topic at hand, because I have a sneaking suspicion that you didn't miss that. Yes, I did say a lower limit of -$1. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the supply is too high and the demand is too low. At these times, you're actually paying to export energy into the national electricity market, or on the other side of that coin, you would be getting paid to use electricity from the network. And that's where the next phase of Redmud Green Energy begins. You see, our solar farms are designed to read the market. So when the market is high, they export generated electricity. When the market is low, they don't. And once we incorporate batteries into those systems, a low market would mean that we would be paid to pull energy from the national electricity market to charge our batteries and then sell it back to them when the market was high. So This is all very exciting, but what is our goal? Well, I'm glad I asked. Our goal is to create a distributed network of large-scale solar farms, but the key thing about our solar farms is their size. Sure, solar farms aren't new, and they're definitely not a new technology, but a Redmud green energy solar farm doesn't require millions of dollars to build. So what this means for investors is there is a vastly reduced capital outlay, opening the door for average Joe citizen to invest. But on a community level, the effect is much more profound. And on that note, I bring you to phase 3 of Redmud Green Energy's plan. Picture this. You go to your local farmer's market and you buy produce. You're buying from a member of your community. You're helping your community. The economy benefits, the wealth stays within that community and strengthens a community as a whole. Now imagine you are doing that with power. So instead of purchasing power from some multinational company who are barely aware of your existence, you would be purchasing electricity from your neighbor, your friends, or your family. You would be purchasing electricity on a community level, meaning the funds stay in the community and the community can benefit from it. This is why we call it the future of farming. Now, if you're watching this because you're an investor, right now you're probably thinking, well, that's nice, but Redmud, if we're selling electricity directly to the consumer, how does that affect profits from selling electricity to the national electricity market? Well, as far as AEMO are concerned, and that's the Australian Energy Market Operator, they're basically the guys that oversee the whole operation. They only take into account unaccompanied generation and supply when they're factoring their payments. So what that means is, if we have a customer directly sourcing their power from a Redmud Green Energy solar farm, and during a trading interval that customer uses 10 units of energy, and our solar farm generates 10 units of energy, then the whole lot nets out. Ultimately, electricity is electricity, and where it actually comes from is not taken into account. The whole process is based solely on the generator's amount of supply and how that correlates to how much that generator's customer consumes. What does that mean for an investor? Well, it means stable returns. Trading generated electricity on the volatile national electricity market is not a sure thing, and although our current solar farms have performed well above our expectations, you're still very much relying on a highly unpredictable market. A market which can potentially make huge returns, but it is by no means guaranteed to. However, by signing consumers up as a direct customer of a Redmud Green Energy solar farm, we can simply set up a per kilowatt hour agreement with them, and then the only volatility of it really equates to the customer actually paying their bill, which we think they will, because with our solar farms, we can offer them electrical supply at rates far cheaper than the current South Australian climate, while still yielding a very healthy return on investment. So if you're interested in finding out more, please head to our website at www.redmud.net.au.